Mistborn Book 3 Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. Let's just jump into this. So, I know I've had people disagree with how negative I've been with Mistborn, and I haven't been super negative. I think it's a good series, just not great. And I think the things that make it not great stood out extra hard in this third book, but the things that made it good also stood out really well. There are people who we are told develop who don't actually show us that. And Brandon Sanderson has never had an issue before in any book I've read by him where he has a problem telling instead of showing. And this is the first time I've ever seen it. And the main character I'm talking about here, and there are a couple others, but I'm going to really explore it with Elend. So Elend comes into this book a completely new character than we've ever seen before. He might as well have changed who it is. It was like seeing a cast member die and be replaced. Like, he's just all of a sudden stoic and very kingly and warrior king-like. And it's because he's now a Mistborn, which if you finish book 2 is not surprising. We're told this arc happened, and then we're told that this other arc happens throughout Hero of Ages, but we're not shown it at all. Helen just starts this warrior king, and by the end they say he's a better warrior king. And I honestly don't see it happen, because throughout the whole book he's making great choices, so he starts great. And at the end it's just like, oh, now he's even better. Why? I need to see a progression here. I need to see some more things. And there's some examples of Elend failing, but we can't really blame him for failing because he had either wrong information or is intentionally misled. So how is that an arc to just see someone go through the same everyday thing that no matter what would happen, anyone would fall for? I don't like the development that happened with him. He's still a really fun character, but he just doesn't develop. We're just told he does. And that brings me to Vin, who has kind of reached her character peak. I didn't expect her to develop much more, but I also expected not to spend more time with her, which happens. The arc that does happen with her at the last 15% of the book is absolutely my least favorite thing that's ever happened in the Mistborn series. I hate when what happens, I'm not going to spoil what it is, but this type of transformation happens to a character. To me, it just completely removes myself and everything else from being invested in the series. I just can't enjoy it, and I find it to be a very lazy choice by an author. The characters and the character arcs I did find interesting were that of Tansoon and the Survivor of the Flames. I'm not going to get into who the Survivor of the Flames is or any stuff like that about him because I really can't give a good review of it without getting into spoilers. I might do a spoiler-filled review of all 3 books later on. I'll get into that another time. But Tansoon, we don't really see change the character, but we get to flush out his character through his observations on his own culture and these kind of trial that happens with him. Tansoon becomes one of my favorite characters of Mistborn. He's now rivaling Sazed for that position. I love Sazed. Let's talk about Sazed for a moment. I was really afraid going into this book he'd go from one of my favorite Mistborn characters to one of my least, because he was gone this kind of mopey, downtrodden path. That mopey, downtrodden path, though, led to some of the best character development Mistborn has to offer, because it leads to these intense conversations and him reevaluating essentially everything he cares about and reaching a conclusion I won't spoil, but it's such a great conclusion for this character to reach. And I think it was the one character that Brandon Sanderson actually really poured his heart into in this book. Everyone else seems to kind of be going through the motions. Sazed, on the other hand, if you read him, stands out as just next level effort for a character. And that, I'm going to kind of link that into my conclusion on Mistborn. So overall, I'm going to give Hero of Ages as a book a 6.5 out of 10. It had good energy. It kept me interested for the most part, but it didn't wow me at all. So I think it earned that, and I do think Mistborn is a good series, but here's what I really think. Mistborn's on Brandon Sanderson's back burner. His heart and soul is going into Stormlight, which it should be. It's his most famous series, it's his best written one, and it's the one that has a real potential for him being kind of propelled into that next level author status. But Mistborn suffers as a result. You can tell there's not as much time and focus put into it. And that's why I don't think I'm going to keep reading the books. Unless I hear phenomenally good things about the next series in the Mistborn world, I'm not going to pick it up. Because if I don't feel like the author is putting his whole effort into it, I'm not going to bother reading it. I still think it's good, And if you like it, great. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying it's not necessarily for me, and I have way too much stuff to review. I've finished 3 books since my last review went up, and I need to make 3 videos. So you can look forward to my next review of the We Are Legion, We Are Bobverse series. That'll be coming out soon. All right, and that's pretty much my concluding thoughts on Hero of Ages and Mistborn. I hope you guys didn't hate me too much for that. And of course, have a great day. Please like and subscribe if you have not. Peace.